Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're taking a trip into the world of a mushroom that's pretty hard to miss.
It really is.
It's Amanita muscaria.
Yes, the one,
You know,
yeah.
the iconic red and white spotted right out of a storybook.
Exactly. It's everywhere, isn't it? And it's not just a pretty face. This mushroom has a history, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's been used for its psychoactive properties probably for, well, who knows how long.
Right, like centuries, millennia.
At least we're going to uncover all that today. The history, the cultural side of things, and even the science behind it all.
The science, that's what I'm really curious about. But first, I mean, how far back does this use actually go?
Way back. I mean, some folks think it might even be the soma mentioned in those old Rig Veda texts, used in rituals and such.
Wow.
Then there's the Siberian shamanic practices too. Maybe they were using it for, oh, I don't know, like divination, connecting with spirits.
That's wild. So we're talking about a mushroom that maybe shaped spiritual practices across, well, all these different cultures.
That's right.
And you mentioned, I think before we started recording, something about the Native American church.
Yeah, it's a bit of a complex issue, but their traditional sacrament is peyote, right?
Right.
But it's getting harder and harder to find.
Oh, I see.
So some members have started looking at Amanita muscaria as, a possible alternative.
Makes sense.
But it's still, well, debated.
Yeah, definitely a lot of layers to that.
For sure.
Speaking of layers, I mean, can we talk about the way this mushroom looks for a second?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like the ultimate mushroom, you know? It's
Yeah.
in every fairy tale, every storybook.
It's true. That red cap with the white spots, you can't miss it. Almost like it's designed to stand out to catch your eye.
And then you combine that with the psychoactive properties.
Right. And suddenly it's in folklore, art, literature, everywhere for like forever.
Yeah, it's almost like a symbol, you know? It represents magic or like
Yeah.
a gateway to another world.
You got it. It's interesting how these cultural, I guess, representations we see, they often show how fascinated we are with altered states of consciousness.
Right.
This idea of experiencing something beyond, well, regular reality, that's always gotten to people,
Yeah. Makes sense.
And Amanita muscaria, it kind of fits that perfectly.
It does. It's like in those fairy tales and the rituals we talked about, there's this desire or need, I don't know, to connect with something bigger,
Yeah,
to explore, well, I guess the hidden parts of reality.
exactly. Like Amanita muscaria becomes the symbol for going into the unknown. It's a good way to put it. It bridges that gap between, well, the normal everyday stuff and the mystical.
Right.
And visually, it works.
It does. But before we get, I guess, too deep into all of that,
Huh.
what about the actual science here?
Right, of course.
We've been talking around it, but I want to know what's happening in our brains when this mushroom is ingested.
Absolutely. But I do need to say something important first. So JLF, they actually list Amanita muscaria as, well, they call it soma, as an offering, but they're very clear that it's not for consuming.
Oh, wow.
Which, I mean, that tells you something right there. It can be toxic, and preparation is crucial.
Yeah, no kidding.
We'll get into that later, but it is like serious stuff.
Okay, noted.
But yeah, let's talk compounds. What makes this thing tick?
Yes, please. So what are those key compounds that, are actually doing the stuff?
Okay, so the main player, the one that gets you going, is mucimol.
Mucimol.
Okay, and it works on the GABA receptors in the brain,
Yeah.
which they control a lot. Mood, anxiety, even sleep.
So many things.
A lot, yeah. So mucimol messes with those GABA receptors.
Okay, but what does that actually do to our brains?
Yeah.
Try to picture it.
Think of it this way, GABA. That's like your brain's brakes.
Okay.
Keeps everything running smoothly, controlled. Then mucimol comes along and, well, it messes with the brakes.
Oh, wow.
And that leads to, well, a whole bunch of unpredictable stuff.
Unpredictable how? What kind of stuff are we talking about?
That's where it gets really interesting, and that's where we'll pick up in part 2.
Oh, come on. Don't leave me hanging.
Gotta keep you coming back for more.
All right, fine. But we're diving right back into this in part 2, right?
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Okay, good. I'm already hooked. See you all next time for part 2 of our deep dive into Amanita muscaria.
Okay, so those unpredictable effects we were talking about.
Right. The cliffhanger.
Well, it really depends the person. Everyone reacts differently.
Okay, but what are some of the things people experience?
Some people, they feel amazing, euphoric, and they have these really vivid hallucinations, almost like they're dreaming while awake.
Whoa.
Others, they feel like they're flying or that they're huge or tiny.
Wow. Like Alice in Wonderland kind of stuff.
Exactly. But there's the other side of the coin, too, you know?
Right, the negative stuff.
Yeah, some people get nauseous, disoriented, muscle spasms, even delirium.
That sounds scary.
It can be. It's not something to mess around with.
Yeah, that makes what you said earlier about JLF even more, well, serious.
Definitely.
They list it,
Mm.
but they say don't consume it.
It's a powerful thing, you know?
No kidding.
You got to be careful, the preparation, the dosage, it all matters.
So how was it prepared traditionally?
Well, there were a few ways. Drying it, boiling it, even, this is going to sound strange, drinking the urine of someone who'd already ingested it.
What?
Yeah, it was a way to try and, I guess, change the effects.
Wow, that's something else. It's like ancient biohacking or something.
Kind of, yeah. But the thing is, those methods, they were developed over like generations, trial and error, you know? We don't really understand the science behind it all.
So trying it at home is probably a bad idea.
Very bad idea. It can be really dangerous.
Okay, good to know.
Even though we're talking history and culture, it's still a strong and potentially harmful substance.
Right, right. Important to remember. Okay, so we've covered a lot. History, culture, the science.
We have.
But there's something else I wanted to touch on. Something about, well, art.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about fairy tales and stuff, but that red and white, it just seems like something artists would love.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a favorite for botanical artists forever.
I can see that.
But it goes even deeper. Some people think it's even an ancient rock art.
What? Really?
Yeah, like way back. Which would mean, well, it was connected to rituals and altered states even then.
So from cave paintings to, well, who knows, maybe even modern art.
Maybe. It's fascinating to think about.
But I mean, how do we know for sure? A red and white mushroom in a painting, it doesn't automatically mean Amanita Muscaria, right?
True, true. But when you look at the history, the symbolism that keeps popping up, and what we know about how Amanita Muscaria affects, well, how we see things, it's hard to ignore, especially in art that deals with, you know, altered states, spirituality, that kind of thing.
I see. It's like the mushroom becomes a symbol for those ideas.
Thanks.
And that makes me think about something else. Creativity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Do you think there's any truth to this idea that Amanita Muscaria can, like, make you more creative?
That's a question that's been around for a long time.
I bet.
The connection between altered states and creativity is, well, it's complicated.
Right.
But there are some signs that, yeah, Amanita Muscaria, the way it can change your thought patterns, it might play a part.
So, like, eating this mushroom could, I don't know, unlock some hidden artistic talent.
It's not that simple, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We've talked about how unpredictable it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Some people might feel a burst of creativity. Others might just feel confused and lost.
Makes sense.
It really depends on the person.
So it's like a tightrope walk between inspiration and chaos.
Ah, exactly.
But I guess that's part of the appeal, right? The risk, the unknown.
For some people, definitely. It's like, what if this unlocks something amazing?
Right.
But we got to remember, there are safer ways to be creative.
That's a good point.
You don't need to risk it all with something potentially harmful.
Back to that respect and caution thing again.
Always.
Okay, so as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into Amanita Muscaria, what's the main thing you want people to remember?
Amanita Muscaria is powerful and it's complicated.
For sure.
It's got history, it's got cultural importance, and it can really mess with your head in a good way or a bad way.
True.
But don't take it lightly. Be careful. Be respectful.
What if people want to learn more? Any good resources you can recommend?
There are some great books out there. Soma, Divine Mushroom of Immortality by R. Gordon Wasson.
Okay.
And Mushrooms, Russia and History. Also by Wasson, actually. Him and his wife, Valentina.
I'll have to check those out.
Just remember, think critically about what you read and always prioritize safety.
Great advice. Okay, so we were talking about, Amanita Muscaria and creativity.
Right.
But I'm still kind of stuck on the how. Yeah, like how would you actually use this thing with all its, well, unpredictability to be more creative?
It's not like picking up a guitar, it's not that straightforward.
So it's more about what, like changing your mindset?
Yeah, kind of. Opening yourself up to new ideas, new ways of seeing things.
Not like Amanita Muscaria is going to turn you into Picasso.
No, no magic mushroom for that, unfortunately.
Okay, good. Just checking.
But think of it like It loosens things up in your brain.
Loosens things up.
The way you normally think, the patterns, it kind of disrupts that.
Okay.
So you see the world, I don't know, differently. Make connections you wouldn't normally make.
Like shaking up a kaleidoscope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same pieces, but they rearrange.
I like that.
But, and this is important, we've talked about how unpredictable it is.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So using it for something specific, like being creative, it's, well,
It's risky.
very risky. It could backfire.
Instead of helping, it could block you.
It could. It's like playing with fire, you know?
Ooh, I see what you mean.
It can be amazing or it can burn you.
So Amanita Muscaria for creativity may be a good idea, maybe a really bad idea.
That's about right. Not for beginners, that's for sure.
And even then, no guarantees.
Nope. It's a gamble. You're going into the unknown.
Totally.
It all comes down to, well, you and how your brain reacts to this stuff.
Powerful stuff.
It is.
Okay, well, I think we've covered just about everything on Amanita Muscaria.
Yeah, I think so.
History, culture, science, the creativity thing, and of course that it can be dangerous.
Very important.
Any last words of wisdom before we sign off?
Just this. Amanita Muscaria, it's fascinating, but don't get romanticized by it, you know?
Right.
It's serious stuff. Be respectful, be careful.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks for having me. This was fun.
It was. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge with us.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Amanita Muscaria. Stay curious out there, folks.